All right, and welcome to Everyone's an Expert. I hope you guys have all had a fantastic week. I have. The bathroom renovation is almost finished, and it's not perfect, but it's close. So I can finally get back to focusing on more EV kind of things instead of rushing to get content out the door. Speaking of content coming out tomorrow, I think is going to be a super fun video. I did kind of a collaboration with the 5 Count, another channel and radio show here in Minnesota that I'm friends with the guys, and they do a video game reviews of like old Nintendo games. So I had them take a look at the Tesla arcade, and even if you've seen the games, played the games, I think you're going to find some of their commentary to be pretty darn funny. I know I was laughing as I was editing it, and I had to edit a lot out because we were playing for quite a while. So my video will be just kind of some highlight nuggets or things that pertain to the car, and then they might release some of the individual sections on their channel too. But there's a lot of footage, so I'm still in the process of transferring it over to them. Hi, Todd. Good to see you. Welcome. Happy Saturday night. Apparently, this stream was showing up, at least for Tyler, as being at 2:30 in the morning, Central Time in the U.S. And I'm not staying up that late. I might stay up till 2 to see the dragon splash down. But we'll see. I just saw on Twitter before I came on here that the Crew Dragon with Crew 1 has done all its maneuvers, and now it's just decelerating and going to enter in roughly 4 hours. Will be splashed down, so that'll be exciting. I don't know if I'll be able to stay up for it, but I'd like to see it. Always cool to see those milestones tick off. And that brings me to one of the things I want to talk about today. I wanted to start out, though, with the Minnesota EV Owners Club had a really good meeting, virtual meeting this week. And in the Clean Cars Minnesota realm, there was only one dealership that we know of that really went to bat for clean cars and thought it was a good idea. And you'd think that would be like a Porsche or a Jaguar Metro dealer that would do that because, they've got the I-Pace or the Taycan regarding, depending on what dealer. But really it was Roseau Ford up in Roseau, Minnesota. And I thought Roseau was a little out of the Twin Cities. It's almost on the Canadian border, in the far northwest corner, not the exact northwest corner of the state, but it's up there. So really interesting to hear their perspective from this very rural, small town dealer and their perspective on why Minnesota should adopt Clean Cars Minnesota and why they should be helping dealerships make that transition. And so I'm going to go over just a couple points that I thought were really interesting, and really interesting from the standpoint of where companies think we are in the EV transition as well. He obviously works for Ford, and it kind of represents a lot of the small town dealers when they talk to Ford corporate. So he had kind of an interesting perspective and knows not all dealers by any means are on board with this, or even on board with Ford doing the Mach-E program. But he was saying that the Ford people, as they were talking, and before I get into this, I also want to say that after I'm done with the live stream, I will try to find the recording of that Minnesota EV Owners meeting, I think you could put it up online on their channel. So I'll try to link to that in the notes below after I get done here. Because he had a lot of interesting things to say. So this is very high level. And if you're more interested, go ahead and check that out. He was saying that from Ford's perspective, they see the EV adoption rate as kind of hitting the tipping point of equivalence of how many EVs they're making and how many ICE vehicles they're making as 2026. And that EVs will surpass sales of ICE vehicles in 2029. And we are in 2021 right now. And we're almost halfway through. And the F-150 won't come out till 2022. And it might take them a couple years to get buy-in. And so I can see maybe they're thinking the production rate that they can do, from raw materials and all that stuff, to what they think their customer base shift will be. To them right now, sitting here in 2020 is probably when they came up with these numbers, that 2026 would be equivalent sales, and 2029 is when the tip over would come and EVs would surpass. I think they're really, either the F-150 isn't going to be that great, which will be really rough for Ford if it's not, in my opinion. Or they're thinking people just aren't going to make the switch. But, if you guys have, been around EVs or know it, the butts and seats experience, for the most part, once people get a sense of that and get a handle on, oh yeah, I could do this for 90% of my driving, that switch is going to happen really fast, especially if they put their heart and soul into making the Ford F-150 electric really special, which they need to. That's their bread and butter. So really hoping they can nail that, and I'm hoping these timelines of 2026 and 2029 are way pessimistic. I would love to see their equivalent sales be closer to 2024 and see that tipping point at 2029. Now, Ford has a lot of vehicles in a lot of markets, so maybe not every market will be able to switch over. Maybe it'll be a raw materials issue. We'll see. But it seems like, for the most part, the Mach-E's getting really good reviews and people are liking it. So if that trend continues, and there's no controversy about an electric F-150 will just be the electric version of the thing you can also get in gas or diesel. So I don't know. I think they're being pessimistic, but I don't think they understand how fast it's going to change once people get a hold of these, if they're really great. If they're not, they got a whole bunch of other problems. He was also talking about it sounds like the Escape and the Transit electric are going to come out next year. And the Escape, again, is about the size of the Model Y, close to it. And people who love them seem to love them. So if they can make that electric and great, good range, decent price, they're going to sell every one they can make. And the Transit is going to be fantastic for, contractors and deliveries and everything. So hopefully they've got a good track or a good plan of attack laid out and they can execute. And if they do, I don't think they'll have any problem hitting their timeline and probably exceeding it. Interestingly, the executives were also talking. They didn't shy away in these meetings internally, he was saying that the Ford people were very complimentary of Tesla and their leadership position in getting the transition started, and acknowledge that they're following kind of that pattern, and they're looking for new ways of selling through the dealers. So obviously this is meetings with dealers, so they're not going to say, and we're cutting y'all loose. But it sounds like they're going to try to find unique ways where dealers can still have some service opportunities. Maybe that's tires, maybe that's upgrades. We'll see where that ends up going, but it seems like they've got the wheels turning on how to make this work for their network. Also, because of COVID and supply shortages and everything, they're used to having tons and tons of inventory on lots. And he was saying kind of the new normal would be a 30 to 60 day window of inventory. And I think that means from order to having it off their lot. So they're trying to cut down on this huge backlog of inventory and slowly trickling vehicles out to only getting what they need or think they're going to need, and then prioritize the flow moving faster out of the dealerships, which I think should be good for should help the dealers because they don't have to carry so much inventory just sitting there. Again, I'm not a dealer or automotive industry expert, but this is my understanding and kind of judging by his tone and some of the things he said on that call. Interestingly, he was talking about how somebody had asked, how much did it cost the dealership to retool? And he was saying $25,000 for the first round. And I don't know if that was installing chargers or unique tools or things they needed in their service area. And then a second round would be $35,000. So that's pretty considerable. And he was saying that's not including training for the staff. And so it's going to be a real impediment for rural dealers. But if some of the dealers, they're kind of, it sounded like talking about maybe doing a little more Tesla approach again of more mobile service on some of these things. So maybe you have, 10 dealers in a county or in a couple counties, and one or two of those is qualified to do all this, has spent that investment, and maybe they all chipped in or something. And then you have mobile techs that can go out and do these service things or go get the vehicles and bring them to that specific dealer. And so maybe by pooling some resources, rural dealers can find a way to make this work. But really interesting perspective. Like I said, I'm going to link to that conversation if I can in the notes below. So maybe check that tomorrow morning, and I should have it in there by then. Another couple things I wanted to talk about. Zach and Jesse from Now You Know, I think it was last Friday, did an interview with a couple guys who had designed the hi Dusty or Ton or whoever that is. God bless you too. You guys are the real heroes of Mankato. So Zach and Jesse interviewed these guys from the Cyberlander, which is this pop-up camper that kind of telescopes out like a camping cup and then expands out kind of over the tip-down tailgate and has steps that recline. and it looks really, really cool. And I have like zero confidence it's going to work. Not because these guys don't seem to have an idea of what they're doing. They seem very confident. But in all the renders, they're showing how fabulously they're using all of this space. And I'm thinking, okay, if you're standing in the back of a truck bed, which is essentially the space you're going to have for this thing, and you need to fold these chairs up in, you need to fold these chairs, pull them apart, and like stretch them across to make your bed surface, and they'll lay across the counter and hook onto the back wall. And they have this cool animation where that happens. But the thing that's missing in all the renderings is people standing there while that happens. And I have a really hard time picturing one or two people standing and unfolding and trying to get something there, and then you got to climb up into it. And I guess there's a little bit of a step or something. They seem to have it figured out. They seem to be really confident in it. It looks cool. I think it's very, very, a very great computer render use of space, and not a real people use of space. It's also, all the renderings are obviously non-cluttered, where, you know, they have this sink that is multi-layered and recycles the water and all that. But let's say you set up your bed. Well, where's your bedding? Did you store that outside? Are there cabinets I wasn't seeing? Or, you know, what if somebody doesn't put that away? Or what if somebody, you know, comes up the stairs and leaves their shoes on the, you know, in the entryway by the bathroom? It's worth looking up and checking out. I think it's called the Cyberlander. And obviously they're waiting until the Cybertruck is finally designed, or, you know, it has a concrete design that they can do their final measurements off of, before they finalize their design. But there's a bunch of people putting down pre-orders, and I don't have a lot of confidence in it. I wish them well. It seems cool. Seems super expensive, though. I think it's over 40 grand. And buying a truck for that and then adding that to it, I guess I haven't priced RVs or anything, but it seems like a cool physics challenge and not a real world viable thing. So we'll see. It'll be really interesting to see what people come up with. If Tesla works with a tent company and they come up with something different, what that will be. I know the Cyberlander is a hard shell thing and it collapses and everything, but it's worth looking up and checking out. We'll see where it goes. Those are just my 2 cents as I was watching the Zach and Jesse in-depth interview with those guys. Todd, did you happen to see that? If you're still here? It also seems like it would be really hot in there. And you'd end up using a lot of energy just keeping it cool if it's all stainless steel to match the Cybertruck. But we'll see what they do. I would love to be wrong and see these cool, weird pop-up pods all over the place. Another thing they had on their renderings, and I don't mean to keep going on about this, but was, you could do this in urban environments too. And I'm like, popping up a tent like in town, or like, I'm going to visit downtown Detroit. I know. I'll put up my, I won't get a hotel here. No, no. I'm going to pop up my Cyberlander and pretend RoboCop's going to protect me. So we'll see. Like I said, I'd love, there are a lot of crazy ideas that just because I don't think they'll necessarily work out doesn't mean they won't. I'm not an expert. Yeah, I almost want to. I'm just looking at your comment there, Todd, and I almost want to tape out what the bed of the Cybertruck would be with the tailgate down and just have like two people stand in that space and feel how cramped that would be. Because I feel like that alone, for a living space, or you're gonna work from home, maybe a single person, it would be okay, but I feel like it would be too tight. Maybe I'm just too big. That is definitely a problem that needs addressing. A couple other things, since I'm talking about some other videos I've watched. I was watching on Inside EVs. They have a Friday live show, and Tom Malogny was talking about the when he talks to people who are thinking of going to electric, of having them, pardon me, and we're back. Tom Malogny was talking about a suggestion he had that I thought was really valuable, was to have people keep a notepad or something in their car for a month or two as their lease is coming up, or whenever they're thinking of making that transition, and just record how many miles they drive in a day. And I know for me, I was thinking, man, I drive all over the place all the time. And then when we got our Model S, I was like, I don't drive nearly as much as I think I do. Now, I do. My hometown's about 50 miles away. And so in the winter, that in the very, very bitter cold times, going there and back, using the heat, fighting snow and wind, that could be a little tough in the Model S. I'd have to make sure I was pretty well charged up. I don't see that being a problem at all in the Model Y. Cybertruck bed with the tailgate down is 2 meters. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough. Maybe it extends. Maybe the top of it extends a little over the cab part, because if you're a 6-foot person and the restroom is in that space too, the restroom can be fairly small, but it's going to take up, just like my shoulders would, even 18 inches would be a pretty snug stall for the restroom. And then you take that off of the 6 feet of bed, or 6.5 feet. I don't know. It's going to be crazy to see how they pull that off. I hope they can do it. But anyway, I thought Tom's as we have conversations with the people who are thinking about making the switch to EV, I thought Tom's suggestion of just keeping track for a month. I was noticing how little it cost. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. How little it cost us to go to Wisconsin Dells 2 weeks ago, and there are different reasons people wouldn't want to necessarily make the change, But if I said you could get there and back with two 15-minute charging stops, or one at each leg, and you could do the trip for $10 to $12 instead of whatever you're spending on gas, would that extra few minutes be worth it to you? I think most people in a case like that would say yes. So I think it's finding those real world example conversations that we can have. And speaking of that, Todd, I know you volunteered at a few things last year. Are you going to do the auto show EV Village in the State Fair? I was thinking about it, but I'm not sure if I can make the date. It'd be interesting to volunteer there. And obviously Tesla won't be there, but just sharing experiences with people is valuable. And so I'm thinking about it if I can make the time work. We'll see. Terry, I'm not sure where you're from off the top of my head, but if you're from Minnesota, let me know if you're volunteering there as well. Another video I was taking a look at is... no? Okay. The Kilowatts just put out a really good video, and they were talking about making the transition, and they were using stats, I think, from BP, talking about how at our current consumption rate of oil, of fossil fuels, that we're going to run out by something like 2050 or 2056 or something like that, according to the oil industry estimates. And I thought that really dovetailed nicely with the series I did on the Well Done Foundation, which I'm hopefully this week gonna catch up with them and see how they're doing this year. I'm gonna try to do a Zoom call and then maybe go out there in June again. That's out in Montana. And NBC just did a little story on them for Earth Day, and they kind of had a little open house and stuff there in Shelby, Montana. But that, kind of tying to the kilowatts thing, is not only is this a finite resource, the pandemic has shown us that, with medical needs and some of the other things, there's a lot of stuff we need fossil fuels, or not fossil fuel, but we need petroleum products, plastics and things, really need them in some applications. And so if we're heading toward this wall where that kind of stuff is not going to be available, then burning it at a really low efficiency rate is really, really stupid. So it's not just about cleaner air and making the switch to EVs, and because that's what I like to drive instead of what you like to drive. It's about how do we see this brick wall coming for this resource, and we really, really need it in certain applications. So how can we get more of it into those applications and get, not waste it on things we don't need to anymore? That's kind of my take on it. But it'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to catching up with the Well Done Foundation folks. I'm hoping we can have a good group Zoom call to talk about some questions that I've had, just kind of brewing on it over the last few months about, really the regulatory credits, or the emissions, the carbon credits, and how when you calculate that for sale to another entity, and this kind of goes with Tesla's credits too that they sell, how much of that is taken out from the, let's say you cap a well, and when you do that, in this case the Well Done Foundation, is obviously using trucks, materials, all that kind of stuff, and they're thinking, well, we're capping a well, so the net is good. And it is, don't get me wrong. It absolutely is. But then you also have probably the guys doing the plugging who are there with the rig and everything, and it's belching smoke and everything, and they're driving diesels out there, and the equipment trucks are all diesel. And they're probably thinking, hey, it's all good. We're plugging a well. It's a net positive. And it is. But then when you sell that credit, is that stuff backed out? And how many people along the chain are thinking, well, I'm taken care of because we're doing this good thing? And just making sure that making sure a bunch of people aren't counting the same advantage, as these carbon credits are sold. So everybody along the line is patting themselves on the back, but really it's being paid for once instead of it's being used. I want to try to understand that it's not being used 6 times to be sold once, if that makes any sense. So I want to get a little more clarity on that. I also want to update. I know they had a ton of wells they wanted to plug. I know Zach and Jesse are now working with them with their merch sales that, a certain amount goes to plugging a well. So I'm hoping they're just going full tilt and, plug at a pretty rapid pace. Hopefully that's the case, and I can't wait to check in. And then, like I said, hopefully visit them again in June. So we'll see. We're trying to work out the schedules and how we can go with that. Yeah, Terry. Dusty or Ton, the 5 count. We'll see about that merch. I know I owe you guys some hats. That's for sure. But you guys have merch, so that's a start. And Terry, yeah, I have heard of the bio-based plastics. I'm just not sure. I haven't read a ton on them. I'm not an expert. My wife works for the medical device company, and I'd be interested to get her take. I'm not sure if those are rated for medical device use yet, if those plastics are. It would be great if they are. That would be fantastic. I'm just not sure because I know some of that stuff can be kind of caustic or difficult to work with, even with oil-based plastics. So again, it seems like a new technology, and it is expensive now, but hopefully that kind of thing can ramp up and we can start making more and more use, getting more of that stuff certified. So when something like this happens again in 10, 15 years, we don't have all these rubber gloves and rubber masks and all that stuff just cluttering everything, because it's necessary, but it's really doing a number on the earth, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we got it, like Falcon Fuel, like you're saying, we got to go into this sustainable future, we got to try a whole bunch of things and then see what works and has the best results, the best bang for the buck, what's the most sustainable with the greatest output, and kind of double down on that stuff. And that's why I think like EVs are beating hydrogen fuel technology. It's just, leapfrogging. Maybe some hydrogen will make sense for heavy trucking or shipping or something, but kind of sorting out, explore everything, and then kind of take the best paths is the way to go. So good point there. What was the other? I just completely lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'm going to take a drink and see if I can figure it out. Oh, so the Well Done Foundation. If you haven't seen that series, it's on a playlist on my channel. You can go back and check that out. It's a little dry, but I find it really interesting. It was a whole different world I knew nothing about. It was kind of I was sent on assignment from Zach and Jesse from Now You Know to go out to Montana and basically shadow these guys for a week and see what they're doing, plugging abandoned oil wells. And it's something the president's been talking about in a lot of his environment speeches. And there's something like 3.2 million unused oil wells just belching methane into the air constantly right now, in the morning when we wake up. It's just constant. And the guys who have the skills to close these are the oil field workers. So that's jobs. That's what the Well Done Foundation does. They hire local crews who are, opening and servicing wells for other clients. They hire them for the week to come in and plug the well. So they're getting paid whether, cement is going down or oil is coming out. And so incentivizing that closing of the unused and just, disregarded wells is important. So, excuse me. Dusty Tun's always on his own, isn't he? It's just the way it is. But anyway, so if you haven't seen that series, I'd encourage you to go check it out. And I also did a road trip video in the Model S. I think it's called a Road Trip Done Well, Part 1 and Part 2, that aren't in that playlist because I wanted to kind of keep that playlist just to the core mission of what Well Done Foundation is doing. But this interview I'm going to do with them, and then if I visit again in June, that'll all go under that playlist as well. And I did some fun little animations and things. Nothing too fancy, but try to explain what's going on underground as best as I could. So, asbestos, we don't want to get into that. Sorry, it's Saturday night and I'm a little loopy. So, I'm excited for that. We just did the Wisconsin Dells trip, which was cool, super, super easy in the Model Y. And then one of the comments we got, I can't remember who the commenter was, but one of the comments on the video is like, how could you use the interstate in southern Minnesota and not come up the Highway 61 along the river? So today was a beautiful day here in Minnesota. It was low 80s, I think. And so we did that drive, went down there, down to Lake Pepin, and did a hike in Red Wing up to the top of a butte, or I can't remember what the name of the trail was, but basically switch back all the way up to the top, and it's kind of where the river converges, and you can see everywhere and across around the river valley and the different edges, and it's just beautiful. So we did that today, which is why I have exciting camping here, or hiking here. Very windblown 1970s hair. Yeah, so we did that drive and hike today. Didn't need to stop and charge at all. Just drove there from the South Metro, all the way up and back. It wasn't super high speeds, and the weather was great, so got down and back with plenty of charge, no problem. And a beautiful drive. I'd love to do that drive again in like around sunrise, where the sun would just be coming across the lake and the river, and lighting up all the trees and stuff. So I might, when sunrise happens a little earlier and I can sneak out, I might run down there and just run a GoPro up there just for the fun of it, for the scenery tour of it. So that was cool. Then we're into May already, and we're going to do the Sound of Silence rally in Custer, South Dakota. So I think we're booked up for that. I got to double check on that hotel because they never sent me a confirmation. But that's kind of how small town lodges and hotels kind of work sometimes. But hoping we have a room. If not, we'll find a place somewhere else. But we're going to head out there at the end of May. I think that's the 21st and 22nd. And I know tons of Tesla owners are going to be out there. A whole handful of Minnesota Tesla owners are driving out there. And I've heard a lot of people from other areas are coming too. So should be a lot of fun. And hopefully things are open. They should be at this point. My wife and I have been vaccinated, so we're feeling pretty confident about that. And I think like the Custer State Park is open and free that weekend. Might hit Devil's Tower. We'll have to see how that works. But so looking really forward to that. And then, like I said, in June, hopefully toward the end of June, I'll be heading out. I think it might be like a week-long family vacation kind of thing. We'll have to see how it pans out with my wife's work. But we're hoping to go out to Montana, out to Glacier National Park, and again, stop by Shelby, see the Well Done Foundation folks, see how things are going, do a check-in there, and really get back out there and see that. And I never got to the park, never got to Glacier. Well, I was out there for that week. It just, scheduled-wise, it just never worked out. So still haven't seen that, and I've seen other videos and things of people going there, and it looks amazing. So really hoping we can hit that, and then we'll see where the rest of the year takes us. But we've got some pretty fun road trips lined up so far for the Model Y. And if it's as easy as the Wisconsin Dells trip, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of drama. Maybe I'll have to see if I can get chased by a bear or something to make it a little more exciting. Because with charging, moving into all these different areas, and the range of the Model Y, there's just not a ton of problems. Now, I'm saying that now in the comfort of my own home with my car plugged in. We'll see what happens when we get on the road. But looking forward to a lot of fun things coming up. Let's see, 10:15. So the only other thing I really wanted to touch on this week was well, I guess there's two things. One's kind of the everyone's an expert thing. In fact, I think I'll save the other thing till later because that's a more long term thing. But I wanted to share this, and this is one of those things that's kind of the reason that I started doing this live stream. Is I was getting so frustrated with some of the messages I would see on different posts online on Twitter. Or, someone would have an article that was misleading headline, and then the tirade of comments underneath it. So I think this is from a. Yeah, okay. So this one is from I believe, a Forbes article about how Tesla wasn't making any money because of their, with their Q1 results, which of course is not true. If you watch Tesla Daily or some of the other people who really study this stuff, you have an idea of what's really going on with their financials. Yeah, Kyle and Alyssa's video, some of the footage they got, the place they stopped between, I think, the second to last and last episode, where they were just kind of out on a scenic lookout and just this gorgeous valley stretching out below them, was amazing. That was kind of one of those things where it was like, oh, I need to get there as soon as possible. I might have to, tie my daughter up on, six leashes or something, because I'm afraid of heights myself. And the thought of, not being able to hold her hand in a vice grip is a little terrifying to me. But also I want to go see that stuff. So we'll see. I might have to, I don't know, Velcro her to myself or something. We'll see. I'll figure out a good solution there. But yeah, if you haven't seen their video from last year, they did a long multi-part road trip from North Carolina up, came up the western edge of Minnesota, across North Dakota, into Montana, into Glacier, and then down through Colorado, I think, and then crossed back. It was a really, really good series, and really showed how capable the Tesla ecosystem is right now. And that was a year ago, so even more so. So this Forbes article that I was referencing was talking about how, is Tesla really making any money? And so one of the geniuses in the comments said, tends to happen when you get government contracts from your sister company, SpaceX, not publicly traded. Then use those taxpayer funds to purchase Tesla parts for rockets, which artificially inflates its stock. Take those investment profits to purchase Bitcoin. It's a scam, and most people don't know that they're paying for it. Would be illegal in Europe. And I don't know if you guys have, backpack's a good idea. The preposterousness of that comment just was like, oh man, where do you even start with someone like that? SpaceX does buy some Tesla battery packs to articulate the fins and things on Starship, but the quantity there is not enough to save Tesla if Tesla weren't making it on its own. And the taxpayer dollars that have gone into SpaceX and continue to, if you look at how much SpaceX, especially as Crew 1 is coming back tonight, if you look at how much Russia was charging us per seat on the Soyuz to send Americans up to the space station, and SpaceX has so severely undercut what we were paying the Russian Space Agency. That I've recently heard, I can't remember who it was, Tim Dodd or who it was, talking about that they don't think the Russians are even going to fly on Dragon ever. Like, just refuse to do it. And maybe that's national pride or something, but it just shows they aren't real happy with losing that cash cow, because they kept raising the prices on the U.S. too, because we didn't have another option. Well, now SpaceX is doing it for much cheaper at a pretty good cadence so far. The second crew is up there, and so that's the third manned launch up. So the amount of money we're saving there, and by doing, taxpayers are saving so much by using SpaceX so far, and SpaceX doesn't use the cost plus contracting that had been done in the past with other aerospace companies. So the U.S. taxpayer is getting a hell of a deal, in my opinion, from SpaceX, and SpaceX is still able to make money on it. So, comments like that just drive me crazy, because it's like, where do you even start with people like that? Because they talk like they know what they're talking about. And it seems plausible when someone who appears to know what they're talking about says something with such gusto of, like, it's all a scam, and it's just, you have to kind of step back and go, do they have any valid points? And it's always good to check your assumptions. That's kind of what I'm saying with this series is, everybody thinks they're an expert, but sometimes you just have to wait and see, and you might be wrong. Elon says, I know I'm wrong. The question is, how wrong am I? And the march is to be a little less wrong every day. So, trying to not intentionally be wrong is a big step. You could say the same for... Yeah, profit doesn't always equal success, and what you're seeing, what you think their goals should be, aren't necessarily what their goals are. And they might be looking longer term or shorter term than you are. Especially these people who look quarter to quarter and can't see the trajectory. Tesla's barely making any money. Well, if I were building 3 factories, I wouldn't be making much money either. So, it's, where is the money they're bringing in going? And it's very clear when you look at their balance sheet and what they're investing in, where that money's going and what should come out of it. Yeah, absolutely. The carbon credits, if they're somebody posted a meme of, like, the different gigafactories, and it was built by Fiat Chrysler, built by Volkswagen, built by I can't remember who the other one was, Stellantis or somebody, but yeah, they're taking you need credits? We've got a whole bunch. Give us credits and we'll build more factories and make life harder for you. So either get on the bus and make some EVs, some great compelling EVs, which people are starting to do, or just keep paying us to make more factories to put you out of business. It would be stupid for them to sit on that money and pretend like, it's not real cash. So yeah, accelerating their growth is important. Yeah, it's really hard to not engage, and that's not to vent to you guys, but I guess that's part of the reason I started doing this video series is like, man, some of these comments are crazy, and if you respond to that person, you are either you won't get any response or you are going in for a multi post deep dive of trying to debunk these things they believe, and in the end they won't believe you anyway. So I guess this is my vent space of just dealing with that craziness, and to put it out there of have a place to respond a little bit without having to engage, because other people do think that stuff, and so the more we're talking about it and kind of clarifying different things, I think it's good. Russians are talking about their own space station again. China, I think just yesterday, launched the first section of their own space station, which I understand, but I hate to see. I loved the cooperative nature that space had been. I know it was pie in the sky to expect that to last forever, but I thought it was really cool that, although we were dependent on the Soyuz, we were going up with Russians. Russians would go up with us. Lots of people from different countries went up on the space shuttle, and I see that happening again with Dragon, where, I would love it if NASA's inviting all parties going to the space station to just, join us on Dragon, buy a seat and come along. And I don't know if the new construction is because the space station might be getting long in the tooth, and either modules need replacing or it needs expanding, but I think it is getting expansions to it. But I really loved the cooperative nature, and I think it was really good for countries who clearly don't get along in a lot of respects to have this one thing that they can all put those things aside, and this is the world's space station. It's the International Space Station. And again, the pie in the sky hope was that the moon would be that way too, but I have a feeling in 15 years there's going to be a China section, a Russia section, a U.S. section, maybe some of the other countries that have gotten close, might have theirs too. That'd be a bummer, but I guess at this point it wouldn't surprise me too much. Science should have no country borders. There's obviously there's some national security stuff I get, and everybody worried about people looking over each other's shoulder and things, but I feel like keeping space international sets us up for a much better future than Mars and the moon having to be dictated by what country of origin on Earth set them up. So I'm not crazy about that. I hope there's a way that we can have some international cooperation going forward on those things. But we'll see. It's tough. ISS is set through 2024. I thought somebody was sending another module that was going to stay there, or a module or two that were going to go up in the next year or two. I can't remember. I kind of follow this stuff. I watch a lot of Tim Dodd's live streams, the Everyday Astronaut, and some Scott Manley stuff, and try to tune into launches and landings and things when I can. But there's so much going on, and especially with like cool little companies like Rocket Lab, there's always something going on, and like Tim will talk about it or something, and I'll be like, I had no idea that was even a thing, so there's always more to learn and so much fun stuff to follow. Yeah, maybe they could do a timeshare. I think they're doing it. I think there are different sections right now. And I feel like maybe as it got bigger, maybe there was less overlap. There's the Russian side and the U.S. side. And maybe more and more there's been separation, especially since there's been a little adversarial nature lately. But okay, they are going to replace the oldest module. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they can keep that thing flying, and even if it's just a kind of a Lego works of constantly pulling out the old pieces, putting new ones in, and making it bigger and better, would be great. So, but it is 10:30. Unless you guys have another topic that you want to talk about, I think I'm going to take it easy. Now, last week, after I did the live stream, I met Ton and Dusty from the 5 Count to do the video that's going to drop tomorrow. And I realized after the live stream that they were going to play beach buggy racing, and I still hadn't unlocked any of the different characters or the different racetracks. And then things like Stardew Valley, they take a while to set up. And so after the live stream, I was kind of, wrapping stuff up in here, and then went, oh, I need to go sit in my car and play video games. And so I think I was up till 2:30 in the morning or something like that. And at that point, I was just like, I can't plant parsnips and like cut any more like fiber from the forest or open any more games. I'm done. So luckily tonight, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, by the time I hit that 2:30 in the morning mark, I was like, I'm a little sick of video games right now. I guess I needed to be about 20 years younger and have a lot more Mountain Dew in my system to do that again. But anyway, thank you so much for joining today, and I think I'll be able to do this again next Saturday. Look for that video with 5 Count, and that will be dropping, I think, 9:30 tomorrow morning. And if you're going to stay up and watch the SpaceX landing, I might stay up and watch that. I really want to. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. And I'll catch you later. Have a great day, and really appreciate you stopping by. And now I awkwardly stare at my monitor as I try to find the right button to end the stream. But have a great day. Thanks.